This video is a replay of a trade I took today. Now, it probably goes without saying, but I'll say it anyway. I am not a financial advisor, and trading entails risk. Just because I got these results today doesn't mean that I can get these every day, nor that you can. Remember, the entire premise of the investing project and the $1 million experiment is that I am not an expert, and yet I am learning how to do this. So for heaven's sake, don't just blindly copy me. Instead, find a mentor, someone who is an expert, and join their community. Pay for their mentorship. This approach has worked very well for me, and it likely will for you too. So use this video partly as education and partly as inspiration. After all, if I can learn this, you can too. Well, a profitable day today, but not as nice a day as it could have been. I'm showing here two potential trades. One of them I took, one of them I didn't take. The first one, the one I actually took, was the pullback on the Russell on the M2K. I down leveled my position size from 6 down to 4 because I felt like I was going to need a little extra room just to provide enough buffer to make sure that I allowed for the entire range here. And then the other one was in the ES, micro ES. And here I also downgraded from 4 contracts to 3 for the same reason. The problem is I didn't take this trade. And the reason I didn't was on its pullback, it didn't make it nearly as far. It made it back really not even to the pre-market low, and certainly not to the previous day's low, and certainly nowhere near the average true range low. So it felt to me like it was sort of in the middle of nowhere. Now, in retrospect, the NQ, if you look up here, the NQ did make it down to its pre-market low where there was support. And that might have been, I mean, and it turns out that probably was enough for both of these indexes to bounce. I didn't know that at the time. And so as I was looking at this, I looked and said, you know, the Russell did make it past its pre-market low and its previous day's low. And so it felt to me like it was more stretched, but it didn't do as well. And I'll show you how it actually made out. Actually, let's do that now. Let's actually go ahead and play this, and I'll turn it up to maximum speed. And we'll see. I've got them both set up so we can actually compare and contrast here. All right, so at this point, we're into both of them. And so I'll adjust the stop down below. I took 120 handles of risk there. I did not actually take the ES trade, but this is what I would have done. I would have had to increase it slightly. And so let's just let those things play out. And we can see that quite quickly, the Russell did take off. And so it was looking pretty good. And once it had moved 100 ticks in the right direction, it moved the stop to break even and started to trail. And that's all well and good because it's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. And on the ES, same sort of idea. Once it moves 15 handles in the right direction, it breaks even and then trails. Well, now, if we look at this, the Russell just didn't have enough oomph to get to that first target, whereas the ES did. It got there, actually, it almost got there. It got there just shy, but then it came up and actually triggered. And that's a nice gain. Once it's done that, that was a nice $300 win with 2 contracts. But unfortunately, the Russell just didn't have the energy to do it. And so it ended up fading. And now I'm gonna pause for a second, because if I was actually watching this, I would be trailing my stop to the low of the previous bar. So I'd be trailing to right there. Let's let this go on. And let's see what happens. So at this point, I think the Russell's pretty much run out of gas. Oh, maybe not. Let me not over narrate here. Let's see what happens. It looks like the ES almost makes it to that second target. Okay, so at this point we have the Russell has now stopped out of its trailing piece, and it stopped out with a $73 dollar gain. Actually, I don't think that's quite true. It was $84 when I was actually trading it. In any case, it took a lot less of a win. I think it's partly, well, in any case, it was an $84 gain that I booked. And if you look here at the ES, you can still see that it's still in the game. It came down. It almost took me out at the bottom of that. Oh, no, it didn't. That was me putting the... No, it almost took me out at the previous bar. And then it went up and it reached our second target here. So that was a nice, what was that, 500? That was a nice $500 trade on the ES. I wasn't in it, sadly. Instead, I was in the $84 trade on the Russell. So, I mean, it's better than a loss, but it's kind of annoying. I had good reasons, I thought, for taking that trade. Turns out it was the wrong choice. And I want to talk a little bit about why it was the wrong choice. So if you cast your eyes over here for a second, you'll see that on the hourly, both the NQ, but particularly the ES, has been in quite a strong uptrend on the hourly. Whereas when you look at the Russell, it's been just flat. It's just been sort of back and forth in this space. And so the fact that it had gone lower than the pre-market low and lower than the previous day's low was more a testament to it being weaker than it was to it being stretched extra much down to the short side there. So I was looking at this, interpreting it as, hey, this is really stretched and it's good for prime for a rebound. Whereas in fact, it was really just not very strong. Whereas this one, with a stretch that didn't even make it down to the pre-market low, was a better candidate because it was in so much more of an uptrend, and that pullback allowed it to snap upwards much more effectively. Anyway, live and learn. It's one of those things I didn't properly factor into consideration, and it turned out that wasn't as good a choice. So there we are. Better than nothing.